a lot of people, if you look at your lifestyle, right, most people's lifestyle is they're sleep deprived, they're stressed out, nutrition's not great, lifestyle is probably not great. They're slamming down coffee and other, stimulants all day. So now you take this person who all your stress hormones, your adrenaline, cortisol, whatever, is through the roof. Even just that lifestyle without training, maybe your immune system's a little bit compromised. All the things are not optimized. Then you go and you train super hard in a way that crushes your system even more. You crush your adrenal glands, your immune system, your hormonal system even more. And then you wonder why, man, I feel awful. I'm not making any progress. I'm getting sick more often. So training should really enhance and improve your life. But for a lot of people, it actually makes it worse. What's up, guys? I am Jay Ferruggia, transformation coach. I am here on Ever Forward Radio, where today we discuss minimum effective dose in training. What is the biological cost of your fitness routine? And how can you do things both in the gym and outside of the gym to build your confidence and self-esteem to the highest level ever?
Brother Jay, what's up, man?
What's up, brother?
I'm gonna dip between the mics here. Dude, so good to finally sit down with you here for Ever Forward Radio. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We're talking earlier, you're one of those people that I have always just kind of been literally in the same room with, or 2 degrees of separation. But even before that, I mean, listener of Renegade Radio and just everything you're doing over there. I mean, I got so much of my initial interest in fitness, health, content creation, particularly on this platform from what you've been doing, man.
Oh, man, that means a lot. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate
it. And, I've been kind of changing up the format a little bit. Lately, I've been actually coming prepared with some questions and actually having infrastructure.
Oh, so you never did before?
No, never really been a question guy.
Okay.
Well, except for the first time I sat down with my first guest 6 years ago. Okay. And I realized I was looking at the questions and I was missing the conversation.
Right. Yeah.
And so I put it aside and have never gone back. But now, I mean, not to say that every guest has not been equally important, and I haven't been as prepared. I either get to know you, I've been a listener of your stuff, reader of your stuff, forever. But certain people, you're just so good at what you do, and you articulate certain things in your own way that, like, I want to drive this home. And shout out one of our mutual homies, Sean Stevenson. I was catching up on a recent episode with the Model Health Show, and you guys were talking about a lot of different things, but really, first and foremost, was kind of like your bread and butter. Fitness. You've been doing this for a hot minute in some really, really unique and fun and badass ways. But there are a lot of ways that we're going about training wrong. And when we're looking to make our bodies better, we're looking for ways that are going to work. But what about training doesn't work? How are we going about fitness the wrong way?
First of all, I feel like I got to deepen up my voice. What a voice! You're.
Well, I've been getting over a little something too, so but it's all a filter as well.
But yeah, I mean, in the age of social media and Instagram and everything, everyone's kind of, I think maybe overdoing it, overcomplicating it, overtraining, just killing themselves in every way. Because it's a badge of honor now that you train every day. You finish in a pool of blood and sweat, and you're just totally wiped out. And everything kind of becomes like this trend that everyone jumps on. Like now it's like you got to do hard things every fucking day. Can we curse? We invited Italian from Jersey on. So
I've listened to your stuff and know enough to know that this is not going to be a clean episode.
Right. But yeah, I think people get, so caught up, and, CrossFit's super popular. And look, nothing against CrossFit. Like, they got people to do what I, in the 90s, never thought people would want to do. Like, mainstream people want to deadlift and squat and train hard, and that's awesome. Do I think it's the smartest way for a lot of people to train? No. A lot of people, if you look at your lifestyle, right, most people's lifestyle is they're sleep deprived, they're stressed out, nutrition's not great, lifestyle is probably not great. They're slamming down coffee and other, stimulants all day. So now you take this person who all your stress hormones, your adrenaline, cortisol, whatever, is through the roof. Even just that lifestyle without training, maybe your immune system's a little bit compromised. All the things are not optimized. Then you go and you train super hard in a way that crushes your system even more. you crush your adrenal glands, your immune system, your hormonal system even more. And then you wonder why, man, I feel awful. I'm not making any progress. I'm getting sick more often. So training should really enhance and improve your life. But for a lot of people, it actually makes it worse. And, I'll credit this to Pavel Tatselin. He said, you got to ask what is the biological cost of your training, and I thought that was really what a great way to put it. Right?
When I heard you say that, yeah, that's
fascinating
a concept that we don't think about. We should absolutely.
Yeah, like what is this going to do to everything that I just mentioned, right? And your joints, your spine, your hips, your immune system, your hormonal system, like all those things. What's that going to do? And it should be making those things better. We should be training with longevity in mind. But some people, it's just like I'm so stressed out. This is just stress relief, but then it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. It's actually adding more stress to your body,
I mean, when we think about training, we have to kind of assume or take on the assumption that there's going to be discomfort. Sure. There's going to be possibly even pain. I mean, we shouldn't be training through pain, but that's how we get better. That's how we get stronger. That's how muscles work. We're literally tearing them down, damaging them so that they can come back stronger, thicker, faster, bigger, sexier, all the things, right? Yeah. But when do we really need to be paying attention to this biological cost? When is it, all right, there's just this discomfort here that I need to endure, that I need to manage and, come back with and do it again. But, you said the joints, the knees, the sleep, when can we really measure, all right, this is something that I need to take note of versus something that I can and probably should kind of push through?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, once you start feel like, oh, my elbow kills, at that point, it's probably 3 or 4 weeks too late. Now you probably have a month or 3 of rehabbing it. But we do that when you're younger, you're a knucklehead. I mean, look, I'm 48. I still do it sometimes, right? You still plow through it. But when I was younger, I was way worse, where if this shoulder is killing on bench day, I'm still benching. I'm just putting, what blue heat is?
Oh, yeah.
That horse liniment. So I'm rubbing that on until it's like your shoulder's on fire, but you can't feel anything. So you bench through it, and then you're hitting smelling salts and all that.
Or now we're using the cured pain salve, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've evolved, everybody.
Yeah.
We've evolved.
Yeah. So, you're doing those stupid things and you're plowing through, and then you're really like, well, what was that for? So I think you got to pay attention to the signals, right? If there's pain, there's good pain where you're just kind of fighting through, like this is challenging, but any joint pain, hip pain, back pain, that's not good. And then again, if you start to notice like, hey, my sleep's actually gotten worse since I started this new routine or since I started this new diet, well, that's not good. My sex drive is down. Well, that's not good. You got to pay attention to all these things, and we want to look at these different markers, and they should be improving. They should be getting better. So, and one of the foundational principles of strength training is progressive overload, which in simple terms means you're just doing more over time. That doesn't mean you're doing more volume, more sets. It just means you're lifting heavier weight or doing more reps with the same weight. If you can't do that, something's wrong. But as a kid, you can chase that. Like every week, I got to beat the logbook, right? Like every week, I can go up. But when you get older, man, you just got to listen. Like you may go in and look like, okay, last week I did 100 pounds for 8, so I'm trying to get 9, but you might only get 7 this day because that's totally fine. It's not a failure. It doesn't mean the workout was a waste. Like nobody progresses linearly in anything. You play an instrument, you play a sport, like there's just not linear progressions. It's up and down. It is what it is. So you got to listen to your body. And again, as a young knucklehead, I had to get 8 that day. And next day I was getting 9 and whatever. Doesn't matter what you got to do, but you got to be smart and you got to listen to your body and just take note. Like if any of those things are getting worse, you got to adjust something,
Where do you see people negatively training or doing things that are negatively affecting their training the most? We've been kind of hitting on a lot of things that, pay attention to joint pain, maybe your libido's down, maybe sleep is shit. What are some maybe things that you think we're seeing now or just in your experience for doing this for so long, or maybe ways that you wouldn't think are because you're overtraining or negatively training or doing things that are hurting the training?
Well, I would just say, again, I think everyone tries to do too much. They go 0 to 100 real quick. And it's unusual for me to quote new rappers, usually old rappers, but Drake.
There's got NWA. I'm sure there's got to be some reference in there.
Yeah. But anyway, what I would say for most people is when you're just starting, especially if you're 35 and older, like if you're just starting out, you don't have to do all the things all the time. Like basic strength training is going to be 80%. That's going to be your results. Where you're doing, let's say, 5 to 10 reps. You're chasing that progressive overload, but again, listen to your body. You're resting 2 to 3 minutes between sets, which some people are like, how is that a workout? It's a workout. Like progress is what you're looking for. And you're not going to achieve progress like resting 30 seconds and just rushing through and doing circuits. So like if you did a workout 3 days a week, that's big compound movements that fit your structure, that don't bother your joints, your hips, your low back, like I said, they feel good, and you have a lot of range of progression, right? Like, so, you start something like a big compound exercise, like a Romanian deadlift, right? There's a lot of room to go up on that. Like if you can only do 95 pounds a day, you're probably doing 185 in 6 months, 220. So those are good exercises. And then like 3 to 4 days a week, like I said, maybe 12 to 16 total working sets, 5 to 10 reps, 2 to 3 minutes rest. And most people at the beginning are like, oh, I'm not sweating, I'm not breathing hard. But like, yeah, but that's how you actually change your body.
It's okay.
If you did those workouts where you're just sweating and breathing hard, but you're not using heavy weight, you're not going up, your body actually doesn't change. And then you end up like skinny fat or just, worse, you don't feel that great. So that's like the foundation. And then just adding in some low intensity cardio first and foremost, like walking first and foremost. People are like, yeah, but
so underrated.
So underrated. Yeah. It's one of the best things you can do for your health. I mean, if you think back, like, I'm not Mr. like paleo guy or whatever, but if you look back, like that's what we did. We walked all the time, right? We didn't jog. We didn't even sprint unless you were, being chased or trying to chase your food or whatever.
And so good for your mental health as well. I mean, just like clear your mind.
Yeah.
For me, my meditation is I'm a walking meditator.
Yeah.
Just like no AirPods, no music, no podcasting, nothing. Just gets me out in nature, gets me out in the sun, and gets me alone with my thoughts and gets me moving for 40 minutes to an hour. So it's like the best mind-body thing I can do or recommend.
Dude, I mean, that's such a great point because so many of us, and I think, when you hear this, you're like, fuck, I got to check myself. Like, how often do you go without inputs, right? You always have your phone, you're listening to some shit. It's like, man, when do you ever get time alone to just think and be in your own fucking head, Like, so that, what you just said is super important. Like, if you could just walk without that, I mean, I know we always want to be listening to podcasts and get better and doing this and that, but you need that time alone. You need that, like, no inputs, just being out there walking.
The human body is always going to be the greatest coach. That's something I picked up from, Sal DiStefano from Mind Pump.
Yeah.
Heard him say that years ago, and it was so obvious, but I think is the best truth, regardless if we're learning to train better or what we're doing negatively affecting our training or the mind-body connection. The more you can get alone and pay attention to your body, the poor sleep, the creaky elbow, walking and just being alone with yourself. I think, maybe we're getting on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it totally relates. A lot of us probably don't want to be that alone with our thoughts. What would happen if like I start thinking about all these things? What would happen if I actually started listening and paying attention to my body? Do I want to go down the rabbit hole of I've been ignoring this hip thing and now that I'm really sitting with it, I'm really present with it, and shit, it's been going on for way too long. I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want to get it checked out. I don't want to slow down my training, maybe even. I don't want to take a deload week or a week off. I don't want to do yoga and just do mobility to be calm and repair it.
Yeah.
I just want to be loud and have all the inputs and push through.
Right. Yeah.
There wasn't really a question in there, but
no, but it's like, it's funny too, because like if you, now I'm kind of veering off of training, but if you always have those inputs, which the majority of people do, I think it just fogs up your brain and like you're thinking about everything.
Yeah.
Because if you're always listening to someone on a podcast or watching social or this or that and the other thing,
which
and you
never
to
this one is fine.
Yeah,
you can stay here. You can stay here. It's good.
But it's like if you never totally detach and you never have that quiet alone time, it's like, do you even know who you are? Do you even know what your opinions are? Do you even know what you want to do? Or are you just kind of being so influenced by just constantly having that shit in your brain or on your phone? It's like, are you getting sucked into like groupthink and all this kind of stuff? It's like, you need that time alone, man.
Maybe all these things like the achy joints, like the pain, like the pool of sweat, maybe you begin to realize, like you were saying, why have I been going down this training protocol? Why do I have this pain? Is it from this workout, from this way of life that I've been after and working my ass off for, which is great, good for you, but why?
Yeah.
Is this what I want? Right. Are their results what I want for myself?
Yeah.
In physique, in life, in success, in mindset, in whatever. And I think that is where when we get really still and we really think about it, at least it has for me over the years, causes the most room for thought and even confusion. Nobody wants to go back to ground zero. Like, shit, I was on this great training program. I was in this great group. Had all the support, but now, do I want this?
Yeah.
What do I want? I got to start over.
Right.
That's scary for most people, right?
Yeah, totally.
How would you walk somebody through that if they come to this realization, or maybe they've gone through the reverse engineering of, I'm sweating my ass off. I have shitty sleep, no sex drive. All my aches and joints are coming from every joint. Every pain in my body is coming from every joint in my body. And it's because I've been chasing somebody else's dream or somebody else's protocol. How would you kind of like go from that realization to building up their own?
Yeah, I mean, and so many of the guys in our coaching program that come to me, they're kind of there, right? Like they have all the symptoms you just listed there. And I just got to get by, and I gotta get them to trust me. And luckily, I have almost a 30-year track record and reputation, so it's easier than it might be for some people. But still, sometimes there's resistance. Like, hey man, I love doing this. I've been doing this, and I'm like, yeah, but you're not getting the result. Like, you're actually feeling worse. So just trust me. Give me 30 days. Let's do this. It's way less than you've been doing. It's way less hard, right? Your heart rate's not going to be as high. You're not going to be sweating as much. You might not be getting as much of a pump. But let's just see how you feel. Let's see how your sleep and your joints and your health and your libido and your cognitive function, all those things are. And then usually it only takes like 2 weeks. And they're like, yeah, you're right. Everything's getting better. I feel better. Yeah. And actually, a lot of guys, not that I have anything wrong with low carb diets for certain people, but for the people that I named, not really the greatest idea. Like I'm a fan of carbs for those high stress kind of guys, Eventually we may get to a point where it's fine and it's great. But if you're coming in, you have all those symptoms and you're stressed out and everything, I'm going to say, let's bump up the carbs a little. And they're like, oh, I'm going to get fat. And I'm like, yeah, not really. There's things that we can do, and you're not gonna. Yeah. And then they're getting leaner. They're eating more carbs than ever. They're sleeping better. Everything's happening. So then it's easy once you prove it to them.
Probably thicker, fuller, stronger, all the things. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because low carb and fasting, that's a trendy thing, but it's another one of those stressors. Yeah. So it's
a huge stress on the body.
Oh my God, you're doing all those things that I said with your lifestyle. Then you're training like a CrossFit style way. And you're doing low carb and you're fasting. It's like, yeah, bro, you're going to feel like death.
No, on top of that, your immune system's probably up against the wall.
Horrible. You're crushed.
You hit on something too that I think is a big oversight of people when we're looking at why am I in pain? The negative sides maybe that you're contributing to training, and that's overtraining. We don't have to be in the red line on our Apple Watch and heart rate monitor all the time. We don't have to be in a pool of sweat after every workout, right? Yeah. What are some good markers for success when it comes to this was a good workout, non-typical?
So, and the other thing too is if you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and you're just looking at what's popular on social media and you're trying to make every workout compete with everyone you don't know on social media or something
for some reason. Best set.
Yeah. It's like, you end up doing a lot of exercises that everyone says, oh, you have to do these exercises. There are really no exercises that you have to do. If 5 of us got together, I'm sure one of us is going to be terrible at squatting, and I'm going to look at your anatomy and be like, yeah, you should probably never do a barbell back squat, but maybe a safety bar squat on a 10 or 15 degree wedge is good for you. Maybe you're better off doing goblet squats. Maybe this guy's better off doing a pendulum squat, whatever. The actual motion of squatting you should be able to do, hinging you should be able to do, pressing, pulling, but there's no, so the most, common, the top 10 you have to do is like a barbell squat, a barbell bench press, a barbell deadlift, a barbell overhead press. Well, those don't fit a lot of people that well. Yeah. If you're looking at longevity, sure, if you just want to compete, okay, do those. Yeah, you can compare. It's easy to compare yourself to everyone else in the world. If you want to compete in powerlifting, of course you have to do them. But I think you want to find exercises that fit you well. And like I said, you can do them long term. Like if I said, Chase, you got to do this exercise for the next 18 months. Are you sure your knees, hips, back, shoulders are going to feel good doing it? 52 weeks a year? You want to be sure about that. And then the markers are are you getting stronger? Are you feeling better? But I think a lot of people just do exercises and do shit just because you're supposed to. Which, no, man, you gotta. It's got to be right for you. We all have a different structure.
And even with ourselves, I've been kind of going through this now. So I recently turned 37, and over the last year, when I turned 36, a lot of things changed for me. Motivation dropped, and I've been training, living a life of wellness, fitness, air quote here, the health, for 16, 17 years at this point. And even for me, I've gone through all the iterations of training. I've done every diet, every program, all the things. And for years, I've been in a great place of I train because I want to. I've narrowed down the routine, the frequency, the intensity, the type, all the things that work for me. And I've got a really solidified why. But even somebody like me, and I know I'm not alone, maybe you've been there, you figured that part out, you're going to hit a period of time where even that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
The same movements, the same frequency, the same intensity. And couple that, I think, with what happened during COVID, I didn't have access to a lot of the equipment that I used to. especially in LA, we got hit hard. Gyms were closed it literally was like a speakeasy. I would go to this guy I know that owns a gym, go around back and be like, knock twice between this time and this time. And like, are you a cop? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool,
I was doing that.
Yeah. And so I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise in one way, because it really shined a light on, Chase, why are you training this way? Why are you doing these movements? Why are you going 6 times a week? I really kind of molded it down to, honestly, if I can get in 3 days a week, 3 solid strength training days. The 4th is kind of like my Saturday bullshit fun workout day. You know, I just go in, I do like shoulders and arms, just kind of dick around and have fun, but I'm moving. Another long walk day. And then like one other day, my wife and I might do something, or it might be absolutely nothing. And I realized like that actually is not only making me way happier, it's freeing up my schedule a lot more. And I actually began to see results in my body and how I felt and how I looked when I was still married to these other training protocols that were giving me success years ago that I hadn't seen in years.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I hear you. It's funny because I actually, what you're saying, I get better. Like when I graduated high school, I was the same height I am now, and I was 147 pounds, and I had been training I've been training for like 5 years. I started training in 8th grade, and then I got up to 2.25, and I walked around 2.25 for years. And then when I turned 40, I wanted to get visible abs for the first time, so I did that, and I never really, went much. Once I got down and got lean, I was like, being over 40, there's a certain pride with being lean. And so, I'll toy with like, oh man, I should gain some size. Yeah. And then as soon as my abs start blurring out, I'm like, I can't do it, But whereas I go, but I've always been my biggest and strongest training like 3 or 4 days a week. But I do just like now there's something about just the habit and the mindset and the stress relief of training more. Yeah. So I'll end up lifting 5 days a week, sometimes even 6. But if I were just like, man, I want to get as strong as possible and as big, I would cut it back a little, That's
so wild, yeah. See, less is more sometimes, people. Less is more.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about age a little bit here. So, like I said, I'm 37. I've gone through a lot of iterations of training. You're 47?
48.
48, okay. I would love to hear what you would advise, a piece of advice, a little insight, for kind of each generation. Because I feel like we're starting training, we're, becoming more active and healthy, maybe, in high school. I think a lot of us really kind of fall in love with fitness and true training in our 20s. What would you advise each generation? Because in certain generations, we can get away with a lot more shit. We can eat like crap, we can stay up late, we can drink alcohol, and we can bounce back a lot quicker. We can even still see results, which the mindset there for me is, all right, if I can do whatever the hell I want, still train and still see results, then why would I change?
Yeah.
But it's not really for you right now. It's so that you in 10 years doesn't have to deal with the poor sleep, low libido, achy joints, and all this other shit we're talking about. So what would you tell a 22-year-old that their 32-year-old self is going to need to hear, and a 32-year-old what their 42-year-old is going to need to hear?
I think, you nailed it there. Like, train and eat in a way that you're 10, 20, 30 years older. Just think about that. We don't think about that enough. Like, you only get one pair of knees, right? So, like, how many shitty reps of like squats and leg presses do you want to put those through? And then when you're 40 or 50 or 60, your knees are going to be just destroyed. Like, nobody wants to be limping around and, walking like Frankenstein.
I'm already on my second pair of hips, so.
Really?
Yeah. Long story short, I had a military injury and both my hips completely reconstructed.
Wow.
And that was at 22 and 23.
Wow.
So completely reconstructed femurs. I got rods and pins in both hip. So I really had to go back to square one.
Yeah.
But now 37-year-old Chase is very grateful for the changes that 22 and 23-year-old Chase made, because now I've got a much stronger foundation, much more mobile, much more flexible, because I had to be really.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get back to 100%?
So I went through one surgery. It was like 8, 9, 10 months of rehab. Second surgery, same thing. It was probably where I would consider myself normal, a solid like 3 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. To like comfortably get under a barbell, to even consider a deadlift, and be able to like do things without pain or further injury. Yeah.
And you can do whatever you want now?
More or less. Funny time, actually. I was just back in rehab therapy the other day. You heard of myodetox? Vinny was working on me. I was like, bro, I think I'm gonna need surgery again. He's like, no. Like, let me get in there and figure this shit out. You know, sure enough, tight adductors, hip flexors.
Yeah.
And so, like, again, probably getting a little carried away in my training. So it was good to kind of be humbled again.
Yeah.
Kind of forgetting that Chase 22-year-old self did go through some shit.
Right.
37-year-old Chase might be good now, but you know, the foundation was set and you got some obstacles to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to the question, I would tell the 22-year-old version, like, back then, for me at least, I didn't pay anywhere near as much attention to execution and perfect form. It was just like, move the fucking weight, right? Like,
Because you kill it.
A PR. Yeah.
Like we all can do usually in our 20s.
Yeah. So a dumbbell press with hundreds, you're just bouncing out of the bottom. It doesn't matter, right? And then years later, you're like,
your shoulder's like, fuck.
Probably shouldn't have done that. Probably should not have done that. So yeah, pay attention to great form early on. And like, there's nothing that you do physically that you wouldn't do that except weight training, not under the tutelage of a coach, right? Like if you played any sport, you'd try to perfect your shot, your swing, whatever. But like, we don't do that. We just go into the gym like, oh, I know what I'm doing. You're just banging out reps and they look horrible. And that, the wear and tear that puts on your joints and your body is not great. So really just lock in on form. That's why I say you don't want to be glued to social media and doing 500 different exercises a week. Like, lock in the good ones for you. And honestly, if we're talking about good exercises, like, I know there's always like 42 split squat variations. For each body part, there's probably like 3 to 5 good exercises, right?
Yeah.
There's just a few. Everyone tries to, you have to create content. So you have 77 ways to do a 1-arm row.
Got to get that clickbait in.
Yeah.
Clickbait in. Yeah.
But it's like, there's very few good exercises. Take those, do them all the time, master them, get really good at them so you don't get hurt on them. That's what I would say, first and foremost, just make sure your execution's dialed in and be smart about it. And then as you get older, and what I would say to a younger kid is probably like, you still got to live and have fun, right? So I'm not going to be one of those Spartan guys who'd be like, eat like I do at 48, never go out, like never have cake, never have beer. It's like, nah, do that. Like, you can get away with it. Totally.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Have fun, like, be a kid. Totally.
I train for the cake now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I have the worst sweet tooth in the world. Like, I'll
fight you on that one.
Really?
Oh, it's bad.
Oh,
it's bad.
Okay. All right.
I just had to get a cavity filled. A micro cavity, my defense, a micro cavity, but
yeah, like if 10 people went out to dinner, like we went out right now, and if everyone got dessert, and most of you guys aren't, like, you have sweet tooth like I do, I would finish all 10 desserts in under 3 minutes, bro. Like, I inhale desserts. It's insane.
Okay, I think you got me.
Like, it's insane, bro. But yeah, I mean, like, even though it's a cliche, like, moderation, I think, is smart. And like I had a client recently, and it really shocked me because I never heard this in 30 years. He goes, hey man, and he's, close to 50. He's like, I'm so all in on this lifestyle, but I got to be honest with you, it's depressing me. And I was like, really, I've never heard that in 30 years. Like, I've heard it's hard, I've heard it's challenging, but it's depressing you. Like, what do you mean? Why is that? And like, so much of his social life, I guess, was tied to going out and eating pizza and drinking beer and stuff. And it is interesting. Like, I've had so many clients in their 30s or 40s. They're like, yeah, I never see my friends anymore. I'm like, but why? Because they haven't understood yet that you can actually go out and socialize and not drink. And sometimes they're like, yeah, but everyone breaks my balls the whole time. And I'm like, well, that's two things. A, maybe you got to choose, a different social circle, because no one I go out with does that. And then B, you control the way everyone treats you, the way everyone responds or reacts to you, the things people say about you. Like, you could walk into a room filled with people who gossip and talk shit all the time, but around you, they won't, if you're carrying yourself the right way, if you're living the same way, if you're the right way, if you're consistent. Like, if you're consistent, people, like, that changes everything, right? So it's weird. It's weird for me. It's a foreign concept. I'm like, dude, you're 45. You can go out and not drink. No one's like, what are you, in high school? Like, nobody's going to care, So it's interesting sometimes. Because we live in this bubble, right, where everyone's fit and everything. But like, so it's like, wow, that's crazy.
There's something to that. I guess you could describe it as confidence, but really, ultimately, it comes down to knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about this whole conversation. I've got some friends that love them to death, and we do certain things together that, they're my friend group for some like fun stuff. And it's like, oh no, Chase won't come out on a Wednesday night, or like, I was gonna ask you to do this, but like you're probably not gonna want to drink. And I'm like, no, yeah. So like, it's validating in the sense that your friends, once you convey that boundary, understand that boundary.
Yeah.
it's gonna, you're gonna get some poking, some prodding, and some bullshitting here and there. But like,
only at the beginning.
Only in the beginning, exactly. And if you can stand firm in that, that's really what it is. It's you voicing out loud for the first time, or the first time in a long time, a healthy boundary.
Yeah,
and
but you nailed it at the beginning. It's confidence.
Yeah,
because if you're going out and everyone's drinking, you have to have the confidence to be able to sit there. And look, I couldn't do this for years, right? But now I can. You have to be able to sit there and be able to have as much fun, break as many balls, tell as many jokes, whatever.
Stay up as late.
Whatever you have to do without drinking, and that takes confidence. Like most people struggle with confidence, whether they admit it or not. We all struggle with confidence. Like confidence is a superpower. Who would not want more confidence? The Rock would want more confidence, right? Like anything you could do on a daily basis to increase your confidence is something I think people should do. Improves your life.
And here's an opportunity, actually, I think, for us to present something to these people that we might get in our balls busted over, that might lead them into making positive change. Like everybody needs to come into their fitness, their routine, their health, their wellness on their own terms. But why not be a little bit of a help if you can? Cured Nutrition.
Yeah.
Ever since they came out with, have you tried their Euphoria drinks, the CBD sparkling water?
Love the company,
so good.
love Joe, yeah.
Shout out Cured, I love you guys.
Yeah.
I got the water bottle right here. I actually will bring their CBD sparkling waters to parties with me now.
Nice.
They're like, yo, bring a drink, pregame, whatever you want. I'm like, cool, I got it. I'm bringing ginger lime or crisp apple, Euphoria.
Yeah.
And because it's like so much of that just kind of like hand-to-mouth habit.
Totally.
And if I'm drinking a can, nobody really is like, oh, which beer is that? Which seltzer is that? No, like you're contributing. So like you can kind of squash that right then and there. Yeah. But honestly, like with the Lion's Mane and all that stuff that makes me feel so good.
It feels so good, yeah.
Dude, I can contribute, I can hang, I can do whatever way better than I could after 4, 5, 6 beers.
Yep.
And then the people are like, yo, what are you drinking? I'm like, yo, here, try it.
Yeah.
And like, whoa, it feels good. So then you can kind of be this healthy model for them to like, hopefully it turns into them shitting on you less and actually, what's that drink you were drinking? What's that health stuff you're doing?
Yeah, because that's the process. Is like at first people break your balls, and then they stop breaking your balls because they've gotten used to it. And then step 3 is they start saying, "Man, how do you do that? I want to do that. It's pretty cool." Like so you start inspiring people, like you said.
It's the best. It's the best. I mean, I think ultimately that's what we're after too. Is I want to do things the way that I know it's going to serve my body. I have a clear understanding of my goals and why I'm doing it. But then if you can foster that community along the way, that's the best part. Yeah. Because then like life just gets easier. When all the people around you, the majority, are supporting what you're doing and on their own journey, and you guys can kind of cross paths how you see fit. Yeah. Like that's longevity, that's adherence, and that's, I mean, big picture, making the world a better place.
Totally. Yeah. And then you just, like we said, you develop more confidence when you're able to do that and when you control it, right? Like I don't drink that much anymore. Drink, I don't know, maybe once every 6 weeks or something. And but I choose on my terms. Like I was out with I don't know, I'm not going to say who because they're a well-known doctor and a couple other people. And I chose, like I hadn't had a drink in probably 3 months. This was like 3 weeks ago maybe. And they were all getting so I'm not I'm not, it's not a Manhattan, oh my God, I don't know.
An old fashioned?
An old fashioned, yeah. They were all getting one, and the way they made it at this restaurant was supposed to be amazing and everything. And I was like, if you guys are having, you know what, I'll have one. But I made the decision, hadn't had a drink in 3 months. And then like that, then you feel good about yourself, right? And then the funny thing was me and my friend, who again is a well-known, successful doctor, we both drank like that much of our drink. We're like, I'm good, you know.
That's so true. It's like it's not even the thing in its entirety is what we want anymore. Yeah, it's just like, let me just enjoy it. Let me be part of the group here. And again, it was your decision, and you decided what you wanted, and then you proceeded to the level to which you were comfortable.
Yeah, totally.
Take that, cut and paste to every other decision of your life, even just a decision today. Watch that ripple effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Watch that ripple effect.
Yeah. That's what I love about, fitness in general, and like sticking to your routine. Like it does have that ripple effect throughout your whole life,
Probably not how you were expecting it or how anyone would think, but a couple sips of that Manhattan, the minimum effective dose.
Right, exactly.
Which
dude, I had that much. Yeah. And I felt like when I was 28 and I had 10 drinks, I was like, holy shit.
And that's it too. Yeah. We no longer need as much of these things when we get clarity of what they are, how they service or don't service, and why. Minimum effective dose is another thing that I know you talk about a lot and wanted to bring up. But I mean, that 2 sips of a Manhattan every
Yeah.
6 weeks. That's your minimum effective dose.
Right. Yeah, and I was laughing. I was having a great time. I was like, but that's all I need. I don't even need to finish this thing. I'm like, I'm good.
It was the best $30 and 2 sips. I had it in 6 weeks. It was great. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
But that concept of minimum effective dose, like when we're actually talking training, can you explain that for us? Kind of break that down. I think we were kind of already touching on it about, maybe it's less reps, it's less frequency, it's all these things. But that concept, that model, really, what is that, and how can we apply it to fitness?
Sure. So in my opinion, there's very few reasons to lift weights other than to build muscle and gain strength. And then as you get older and older, bone density, right? But like, I don't think it's good for conditioning. I don't think it's good for fat loss. People can disagree with me. That's fine. I think conditioning is good for conditioning. And I think fat loss is diet, sleep, hormones, stress, all those things. So if you're going to the gym, you should be attempting to build muscle, because as you get older, you're going to lose muscle. So
atrophy happens as we age. It's just biology, yeah.
And what our friend Dr. Gabrielle Lyon is hitting on really hard. I was just with her before, and she was telling me more about this. Like, the obesity, she thinks is not so much a problem. It's more a lack of muscle. Like, she's going hard on this. She's writing her new
team
book
muscle centric
on it.
over here.
Exactly.
Team muscle centric.
Yeah. And she was explaining, every possible disease, every possible negative outcome, you're going to stand a better choice if you have more muscle as you get older, right? So we should all go to the gym with the attempt to build muscle. And why not do the least to get the results you need? Like, you don't have to go in and do the most. Like, just figure out what the minimum effective dose is. And then if that's not working, then maybe add more. But start with that, because then again, it's not going to have this huge biological cost. You're going to feel better. So it should just be, what I said, like progressive overload, low reps, long rest periods, get strong, and see where you're at. If you're eating enough protein and everything's good, you should gain muscle, especially if you're new to training, right?
Oh, yeah.
The more advanced you get, we're all working towards diminishing returns, If you're 50 and you've been training since you were 14, like, you're working towards diminishing returns, but you're still fighting. You should still be training in a way you're trying to gain muscle, because you're going to lose it naturally anyway. So that's my thing, is just go to the gym with that in mind, and then only add more when you need it. Only add more volume when you need it. Because again, it's, you only have one pair of elbows, shoulders, knees, things like that.
Unless you're like me, you want to turn into bionic.
Yeah.
Which surgery, I don't know. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And it can cause more problems.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, man, where are you going next? You've been doing this for a hot minute now. You've pioneered so many things in the training world that we now kind of take for granted. I mean, Jay's got a great story of literally having to go down to like the piers and the docks to find chains and rings and all this shit to bring into his gym that was totally new and foreign, that so many of us now, we walk into the gym and there are chains, there are battle ropes, there are rings and all this stuff. Someone who's been, I'll say, a step ahead of a lot of these training protocols in the fitness industry. Where are you going with it now? Where do you want it to go? What do you kind of see being the next thing?
I feel like it's like the Bruce Lee kind of thing, right? Like at the beginning, a punch is just a punch, a kick is just a kick, and then you learn a bunch, and a punch is not a punch anymore, and a kick is not a kick, because everything's super complicated, right? And so you're listening to all these different people, and like you and I, you're trying every different diet, every training system, everything under the sun, and then all of a sudden you get more evolved to that black belt level, and you're like, oh, punch is just a punch, kick is just a kick. So I've kind of like, gone full circle where I started super simple, then got super advanced and crazy and complex, then you realize, man, it should really be simple. So my training with myself and everyone that I work with is probably simpler than ever. Like, we have a smaller pool of exercises. I have an even smaller like rep range. Like, everything's just simpler than ever. And I think most people's lives are overly complex, overcomplicated. So if you can simplify your training, or if you're working with someone for them, simplify their training, their diet, their lifestyle. Because, you and I are into this, and we've been obsessed with this for years. So if someone comes to us, we could give them fucking a million things to do.
1,000,001.
Yeah. Red light, do this, do that. Like, it's like, nah, but bro, who's really going to do that? Like, if we could just lock in a pretty good diet, good training, and sleep, that's good. Then you want to start doing sauna and cold plunge and red light and do this and that.
Do you want to know what Chase is doing now? You want that laundry list and that habit list, or do you want to know what I started with?
Yeah.
Know your client, know your audience.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, so I'm just always trying to simplify, minimize stuff, minimal effective dose, 80-20, Thoreau, Bruce Lee, all that kind of stuff. The older I get, I find that to be more important. And then, and that's what we do with our coaching program. Like, my coaching program has evolved a little bit, where it was just pure like sets and reps and macros for years, but now there's more mindset and confidence building stuff in it too, which I think is important. It's always been important, but even more so the last few years with the state of the world, it's important to kind of, and I only work with guys, so like I create like a space where guys can kind of like, say or share certain things or do things that they wouldn't if there were females around, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, personally, I think I love that final aspect there, but I personally hope that guys can get to the point to where no matter who is around them can speak from the heart.
Yeah.
And let the heart speak.
Yeah.
I was sharing with you earlier, kind of the whole reason I'm here this week is for a psychedelic conference. And so many ways that training has given me my life back. It literally has given me my mobility back, giving me my way of living back. And it's funny when we think about the obvious, right? Of going to the gym, training, being a macho typical guy. I think the things that have given me the most benefit in terms of better training, even some PRs, but more confidence, more strength and resilience in who I am as a human being has been when I've shifted to that mindset training through the more obvious approaches, like let me journal, let me get a mentor, let me get a coach, let me listen to some personal development podcasts, let me go to a conference, let me talk to a therapist. But really the last 2 years for me, tapping into alternative healing modalities, breath work. I had my first altered state of consciousness and out-of-body experience in a 20-minute breath work class that I'm still fucking wrapping my head around.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, through psychedelic medicine, plant medicine, ketamine-assisted psychotherapy in particular, has surprisingly made me so much more confident in not only why I go to the gym, but being able to speak my mind, speak my heart, no matter who is around. And like we were saying earlier, the more obvious example is like me bringing a non-alcoholic sparkling CBD functional mushroom water to a pregame. But after that, it's like talking about things that most guys would not talk about at a party.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in a way of like, look at me or like, this is what you should do. But again, it feels the most right for me and that ripple effect that I'm after.
Right.
Kind of giving permission for other people to maybe put down the beer if they want and pick up the functional mushroom drink, but also like maybe we don't need to like have this facade of what we think we're supposed to be talking about. And what if we shared something that we're struggling with?
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
Depending on who's in the room, if we want to.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I really think like a lot of people struggle with what's my purpose, I think you kind of just nailed it there. Like, I think everyone's struggling with purpose is like, become your most confident, your best self. I think every day you should wake up like, what can I do to build my self-esteem, my confidence to a higher level? Because if you have that, if you're like the most confident version of yourself, you're able to help so many people, right? Like Dr. King said, anyone can be great because anyone can serve. And serving doesn't have to be going to the soup kitchen or going to a third world country. It could just be being present for someone, being the inspiration for someone, creating that ripple effect, right? And but if you don't do the things, whatever it is, like the deep work that you just talked about, or maybe just checking the box that I got my workout in today and I stuck to my diet and I got to bed at the same time. Like
I kept a promise to myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every day you do that and you boost your confidence, you make everyone around you better. You're able to help people better. You're able to serve people better. But if you don't do that and you get to the end of the day and like, oh man, I skipped my workout, I ate that donut, like then you feel like shit. So you're not as good of a husband, a friend, a boss, an employee, whatever. Like, and you may not even know it. It might be subconscious.
You become your own negative ripple effect.
Exactly.
Really,
yeah, totally. So that's why I think it's so important to do the work, to check the boxes, to be on that path every day, to be like your strongest, most confident self. Because it does really change the world. And I also think that if more people did that, we would not be in the situation we're in the world right now.
Preach, man, preach.
100%, right? Because if you don't have confidence, you're very easily fooled. You're very easily swayed into groupthink and into doing what the majority's doing.
And you don't maybe even realize how you've been swayed.
Yeah.
That's like some next level shit.
Exactly. And then if you don't believe in what's going on, you're like, well, I don't have the confidence to speak up about it. I'm just going to go along with it. And then I'm going to bitch and moan and yell at everyone who's not going along with it. It's like, man, a lot of the last couple of years would not have happened if more people were more confident. I truly believe that.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah. Well, it kind of brings me to my final question here that I ask everybody. Every guest gets this question, to bring it back home to the concept of the show, Ever Forward, to live a life ever forward. It's this belief system that I have that it's a choice. The obstacle before me is the way. My greatest adversity, I choose for it to be my greatest advantage. And there's work that comes with that.
Yeah.
But when you hear those two words, man, ever forward, what does that mean to you? How would you say that you live a life ever forward?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, that's why I have this word, relentless attitude here.
Hell yeah.
Because I got it right here.
So, not relentless, but ever forward.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's the same thing, right? Like, it's like you're chasing, that strongest, best version of yourself every day, trying to be better in every way. And I think that's exciting. Like, a lot of people, again, wake up with like, oh, what's my purpose? What am I going to do? Oh, I'm bored. I don't like where I live and this. I don't like my job or whatever. But if you wake up and, it's cliche, but if you have gratitude, sure. But if you wake up like, dude, I can get better. Like, I can be better than yesterday. I could be better with my diet. I could be better in the gym. I could be a better husband. I could be better whatever. I could be more present for people. I could look at my phone less. I could talk to strangers. Like, there's so many things you can do to be better than you were. And then, especially if you're doing the deep work, like you talked about, like we all have baggage from childhood, right? Like, the thing is, if you meet somebody on the streets, you have a cheat sheet. If I just met you in the elevator, I know you have anxiety, you have something you're stressed out about, you have something you're insecure about, you have something, whatever. Like, we all have these things. That's the human experience, right? So you can serve, like Dr. King said, you can be there for somebody, be present, ask you questions, give you a compliment on your shoes, whatever. Hey, I see you're in the Nikes. I'm gonna, whatever it is, right? Like, people need that. Like, human connection is so important that we lost for a while there during 2020 and whatnot. And so, yeah, man, I think life is more exciting when you wake up every day with that ever forward, relentless approach to like, how do I get better today? How do I be a little bit better than yesterday? And again, do it in like an 80-20 minimum effect. Because I think people can overwhelm themselves, right? It's like, oh, I got to meditate. I got to journal. I got to do it. It's like, no, do a few things, figure out what's most
Drinking
important
from the fire hose is for a few select people. I wouldn't even recommend it for very long.
No, just do a few things that matter. And I love it, man.
I love that response. I always say there's never a right or a wrong answer, but your whole concept there, really kind of living of service, something just kind of popped in my mind. I don't know if this is something maybe I am or used to struggle with, but for whatever reason, it rose to the top. I think when we think living out of service, being of service, implies, or we have this belief that if I'm going to serve, I have to have the answer or answers.
Right.
If I'm going to help you, I need to have the solution. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
Being of service, being of help really just means being present.
100%.
And being vulnerable and being open and honest and I wouldn't even say confident, courageous enough to go, you know what, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer, but you're not alone.
Right. And even guys make that mistake with their wives or girlfriend all the time. Like, your default is to solve the problem, and it's like, I didn't want you to solve the problem. I just wanted to talk it out. Now I feel better.
I don't know if we'll ever figure that one out. I think it's just all of our evolution against us.
Yeah.
But baby, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Well, Jay, dude, this has been a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Long overdue. I'm so glad to have you here on the show.
Pleasure.
We're gonna have all of your stuff. You're very welcome. You can have all your stuff down in the show notes and video notes. But where can people go to connect with you, to learn from you? Maybe train with you, or just, what's the best plug for Jay?
Yeah, I mean, if you just go to jay.fit, jay.fit, just because my name's hard to spell and remember, that'll just redirect you. You can find all the stuff there. And then Jay Ferruggia on Instagram.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, my pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks, brother.
Under the mic, yeah.